6 o'clock, we start with selling pot to lawmakers, or the idea of it anyway. It is House Bill 880 or 658 in the Senate, but both of them are attempting to legalize 420 in the 410.
This is not the first year Delegate Kurt Anderson is trying to sell this idea in Annapolis, but it is the first time that he's getting some real support. ABC2 investigator Brian Kubler goes inside the lobby looking to legalize marijuana in Maryland.
Just underneath the same progressive arc that saw gambling and gay marriage become a reality in Maryland, you may find a seedling just beginning to poke through the frozen ground.
I think once people get used to the idea and hear it, it's not going to be as big a hurdle to jump over as you might have thought at one time.
Delegate Kurt Anderson of Baltimore City has had his eye on the legalization of marijuana since the 2012 legislative session, for 2 years in a row, submitting bills that never really got anywhere. But this year, against the backdrop of precedent, the bill looks and feels different.
It's an industry, and it'll be brand new, and virtually anybody could get in on the ground floor.
And he argues, why not Maryland? Colorado is now cashing in, soon Washington State. And industries in both those areas called the delegate to see if Maryland may be the next state. Anderson estimates at least $120 million profit for the state is to be gathered in licensing fees, a $50 tax per ounce, and fines if not used per the regulatory structure. No one under 21, certainly not in a public space, and don't think about driving after smoking it. It's a bill that now looks a whole lot like law in Colorado.
This is a radical idea, supposedly, but when you start really to look into it, and you see the fact that marijuana is certainly not as dangerous a drug as alcohol, and it doesn't kill you like cigarettes do, then people start thinking, well, why is this drug illegal?
The money and control his bill gives to the comptroller of the state kicks it over to not just the Judiciary Committee, but Ways and Means too, which he argues can be an easier avenue for passage. But the benefits don't just lie in the revenue generator. Anderson is most concerned about eliminating criminal records for young men and women in Baltimore for what he believes amounts to nothing more than a nuisance crime. He says his bill generates revenue and saves money on the justice system all at once. A no-brainer, he believes, in a state like Maryland.
You look at it on paper and say, well, you know, the Ravens should be able to beat the Bengals on paper, but you got to play the game.
And that game is obviously being played here in Annapolis, but with an increasing amount of co-sponsors to this bill, and several groups, including the NAACP and ACLU, Anderson is fielding quite the team. But it's the presence of one group that is helping to pull it all together.
You were part of the blueprint that is Colorado.
Yes, I was part of the campaign in Colorado.
And now you're bringing that expertise here to Maryland.
Yes.
Rochelle Young is with the Marijuana Policy Project, the lobby which successfully spent millions on campaigning for legalization in Colorado and now setting up shop here. It was partly its poll released a few months back that found 53% of Marylanders are in favor of legalization. Dig deeper and you see 37% of those were between the ages of 50 and 64, and the lion's share of respondents were from Montgomery and Baltimore counties.
They could put it in place in 15 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is just a little over a year.
Young is taking that message to legislators in Annapolis, pushing an issue in a state her lobby feels is ready.
We think that this is becoming a more politically palatable topic. The other reason is that Maryland is so close to the Capitol, and we think that if Maryland can take this step, it'll help influence, lawmakers in D.C. see that this is where the nation is going.
So there's a geographic strategy here.
Sure.
Coloring a very blue Maryland green would be a win for MPP. In previous campaigns, they pumped money into ballot measures. Maryland is the first time the organization is working the halls of a state legislature to get the bill passed.
What I would like to talk to you about is legalization for adults 21 and up under a system similar to alcohol.
Corralling much-needed votes in the halls of Annapolis.
I think that taking 20,000 addicts a year and locking them up in Baltimore City because they possess marijuana is bad public policy.
Right.
So I'm with you on that. But I also think that sometimes smoking marijuana, that marijuana can be a gateway drug. I don't want Maryland to be Colorado or Washington State.
I mean, if I could give you...
I don't want us to be Colorado and Washington State. I'm not there.
Senator Brochin isn't the only one. While many lawmakers find value in decriminalizing marijuana, regulating and legalizing it is still too radical of an idea. A line of thinking MPP knows will be tough to move in an election year.
What this bill does is change the status quo, I think, in favor sociologically and economically in the state of Maryland. And if they get to that point where they can see that, then they'll be on our side as well.
In Annapolis, Brian Kubler, ABC 2 News.
All right, the Marijuana Policy Project is working in other states this year as well. Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Hawaii, Alaska, they're all considering similar measures. Now, the lobby is pushing the same message there as they are here. Job creation, state revenue, and regulation that would squash the black market. While there is growing support here in Maryland with the Senate President Mike Miller as the headliner, Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley has said he is not in favor of legalization. All right, one of the worries when it comes to marijuana is that it is a gateway to other drugs, but is that fact or fiction? ABC 2 breaks down both sides of the debate on marijuana as a gateway to more dangerous drugs. To read the experts' opinions and decide for yourself, just head to abc2news.com.